Good evening. There's a war raging on the streets of our cities, a war of wheels. On one side, anxious, impatient motorists cocooned inside 2 tons of steel. On the other, the vulnerable legions of cyclists darting and weaving through the traffic on their fragile two-wheelers. If you're a soldier in this battle for the right of way, you may recognize yourself in Eric Rankin's story, Road Warriors.
Imagine a rush hour like this, the byways given over to bicycles, bike pedals replacing gas pedals. It happens every day in cities like Amsterdam and Beijing, and maybe once a year in most Canadian cities. This is a one-day bike-a-thon in Vancouver, a temporary territorial victory for the bicycle over the car. The biker's battle cry has become transportation, not just recreation. It's a cyclist's dream of the future.
This is reality. There's a war going on out here in the streets. While more and more cyclists are demanding their share of the road, motorists won't surrender. Yet there's an estimated 50,000 bike commuters in Vancouver, 40,000 in Toronto, tens of thousands more in cities like Calgary, Edmonton, and Ottawa. Bicycling is the fastest growing mode of transportation in Canada, growing at triple the rate of car traffic. The question is there enough room for bikes in the big city?
This is a bit where I feel a little bit invisible. People aren't always looking out for cyclists.
Sue Zielinski is a bike commuter.
Lots of cars here.
She's fairly typical of the new breed. She lives within a few kilometers of her downtown Toronto job, has to fight rush hour traffic, and knows all too well the hazards of the road.
Now this is tough because I want to go straight and some cars behind me want to turn. And they go a lot faster than I do, and there's someone coming up behind me. Oh, that guy came so close. He nearly killed me.
Some motorists, I think, I don't like this unpredictable thing, therefore I will deny that it's there. And the interesting thing, and a really important point, is that a lot of drivers are cyclists, and they ought to know what cyclists go through. But many drivers have said to me, well, as soon as I get into a car, I don't like cyclists anymore.
Zielinski is part of a growing movement within the bike community, a movement to take back the street. Their argument, bikes take up 1/6 the space of cars. They don't pollute, and cyclists pay taxes just like car drivers do.
I think it's time now to say no. It's not up to just convincing them and saying, oh, please believe us and we want some space and just give us a little bit of edge on the road. It's saying, no, this is equally our right.
I think they're going a little bit too far.
The idea of giving more of the road to cyclists annoys those who use the road the most, motorists like Jerry Manley. He's an ex-cop, taxi driver, and general manager of a Toronto area cab company. Manley likes bikes as long as they stay out of his way. Even proposals to create special bike lanes don't sit well with him. He doesn't want to give up his share of the street.
If you start cutting down lanes of traffic for the extreme few, it is going to inconvenience the mass. Isn't it going to escalate traffic accidents? If you cut down 2 lanes to 1, when all of a sudden you've got 1/1000th of the population that has a free ride in a lane, and the other 999 out of the 1,000 are going to be frustrated trying to get to work, how many coronaries is that going to cause? How many accidents is that going to cause from impatience? You have to weigh all these things.
There's one brand of cyclist that cabbies hate the most, the bike courier. Both compete for the quick buck parcel delivery, and sometimes the same patch of road. If there's a front line between motorists and cyclists, this is it.
Cabo, move it! Watch it, bud, you're in the middle of the road. Yeah.
Shannon Reiner is the fastest courier in Toronto. He's even won illegal late-night races to claim the title. He's a fast-riding, slow-talking 6-year veteran, and he's learned to survive on the street.
I have used a little bit of creativity, I guess, in finding places on the road that are safer than the prescribed place, which I call the gutter lane. The gutter lane is the one that's where you're supposed to be, off to the side, at the right-hand side of the road. You know, lots of glass and stuff accumulates there. You get flat tires, you got junk to deal with, garbage, and then you've got the sewer grades.
While bikes and cars fight over the rules of the road, couriers make up their own rules. That can make them a parcel shipper's dream and a pedestrian's nightmare.
Oh, God. Well, you don't just sit there and cover your ears, dummy. You gotta look where you're going.
This lady, what did she do when I yelled and said something like I'm coming through? She covers her ears. She doesn't look. She covers her ears because there's going to be a big bang coming up. She thinks she's dead. It's kind of like a rabbit, you know, with the bright lights when the rabbit crosses the road. It's the same kind of thing.
This pedestrian wasn't hurt, but there are similar collisions, some a lot more serious every day. As cyclists try to negotiate the mean streets, some take to the sidewalks. Unless you're riding a child's bike, that's illegal in most cities. And pedestrians like Carol Friley are there to make sure you obey that law. She's a sidewalk militant, and she packs a mean umbrella.
I've adopted a new defensive measure, which I just found out doesn't work. I carry this umbrella, rain or shine, and I extend it to that side, and I walk close to the curb so that no one can pass me on the right. And when a cyclist sees that, they've got to swing around me. But a few days ago, they didn't. They just went right into the umbrella, and they didn't care. I survived, the cyclist survived, and even the umbrella survived. Excuse me a minute. Do you realize that you were riding your bicycle on the sidewalk, and that's against the law?
I was slowing down and looking for a place to park.
Most of them appealed to me sympathetically. Do you want me out there with those cars being, being killed? All I know is they're on my space, what traditionally has been a pedestrian space.
So the bike battle lines are drawn. How do you get the warring sides together? Well, some cities have come up with partial peace plans. Montreal is a few years ahead of the rest of the country, thanks in part to Bicycle Bob Silverman. He's a radical, a bike guru, and a poet.
Cars everywhere, what a stink. Packed together, street by street, eliminating our feet. We had nothing to like. Then we rediscovered the bike.
Back in the 70s, a bearded Bicycle Bob was a bike-riding radical. With his group Le Monde de Bicyclette, he organized protests, die-ins, and what they called cyclodramas. Montreal listened. Now the city has major north-south and east-west bicycle routes. Companies have reserved parking for bikes. And a bike-only bridge is being built across part of the St. Lawrence River. Bicycle Bob says the battle is not completely won, but the fight has been worth it.
I would do it again if I had to, and I would do it better because I'd have this experience. There's no question that I would do it. And maybe now I should read another poem, which I wrote at the time of this bike path, its creation, the North End. Altering the street so bikes and cars don't meet, dividing the road for a more human face, so simple yet so great.
On the other side of the country, Vancouver is planning for the future. City Council, under bike commuting Mayor Gordon Campbell, has earmarked $8 million for bike route improvements.
Well, you'll have to pick up the Canadian Institute of Planners Guide.
Even developers are learning how to wheel as well as deal, taking part in this special executive bike tour of the old Expo 86 site. They've promised to include change rooms and showers for cyclists in the massive redevelopment project. By summer, bike facilities in new buildings could be required by law.
We need a design team for bicycles, like an engineer, a planner, the architectural lens, you know.
It's one thing to plan for the future, but cyclists and motorists have to live with the problem now. Most know what's needed to make peace on the streets: a little cooperation.
There's just a lack of mutual respect, I feel, between the driver of a vehicle, of a car, and the rider of a bicycle. We don't seem to understand each other's position, and I feel we should get into some sort of mutual respect. And if they adhere to the rules of the road, as I have to adhere to the rules of the road, I don't really feel there'd be any problem.
It is a two-way street. It's a matter of common courtesy, but that common courtesy has to come back as well from the other direction.
You know, I won't deny it. There are people out there that abuse the rights and really don't do good things to create a good image for the bike couriers.
How about yourself?
I I try to be good. I don't know, I'm not always good, I'll admit it.
Until cyclists learn to ride better, until motorists realize bikes are real vehicles too, and until everyone learns to obey the rules of the road, cars and bikes in the big city are in for a bumpy ride. For The Journal, I'm Eric Rankin.